So yeah, today we're going to see that QAs and DevOps can be really good friends. My name is Gloria. I'm a QA engineer at La Luz. Right now, I'm the only QA engineer for the whole technical department. I'm specialized in Agile Lifecycle, and also I arrange a meetup in Barcelona about quality and Agile things. So if you come to Barcelona and you want to share knowledge, you're welcome. And you can find me in Twitter as Madame Shima. So for the ones that you don't know what La Luz is, we are a utilities company, and we sell green energy in Spain. So today, we are going to see what is quality, the different roles that you can find about QA, and what are the things that we have in common. So the first question, what is QA? Could you please raise your hand if you know what QA is? OK, cool. And about quality? And one of you can explain me briefly what is QA? Briefly, OK. Mm-hmm. OK. OK, cool. So for me, what I understand about QA, QA stands for quality assurance and basically covers all the activities that we need in order to assure that something is working fine. And when we are talking about all the activities, we include testing. Testing is part of QA, but QA is not testing. This is really important because another activities that you can do in order to provide that everything is working fine could be just a simple conversation with your teammates, just to be assured that everybody is on the same page. Or even put good practices to your team, so everybody is aligned and are doing the things in a proper way. About quality, quality is harder to explain. Basically, we need to put a threshold to something in order to know if we are near that threshold or not. And it's really important that should be a team responsibility. I mean, the threshold should be put by and defined by the team. No one should go to your team and say, hey, this is quality for me. If it's the boss, probably yeah, but it's the team, the one that has the final word. And now we are going to see a little bit deeper the different roles that you can find related with quality. We have the test engineer, we have the software engineering test, and we have the QA engineer. The test engineer usually is a product expert. As is a product expert usually performs a test on behalf of the user. This type of tester tries to mimic the user and is going to do the same things the user does with the product. Usually, the main objective of that role is looking for bugs. And they do lots of manual tests, and sometimes they can spend time writing automated tests as well. Another role that we have is the software engineering test. In that case, usually it's a developer role. It pushes code into production. I mean, it develops features, but it's more focused on the testability of the product and also the test infrastructure. And it does activities like refactor the code to make it more testable. And finally, we have the QA engineering test. This type of role usually fills the gap between engineering and product, test thinking about the user, but is in the difference with the test engineer. The test engineer does the same things as the user is going to do, but the QA engineer is thinking about the user, so it's a little bit different. Also, it pushes for testability and test infrastructure, pushes for best practices, and instead of looking for bugs, the main objective of this role is prevent bugs. So, this is the life cycle of a product, of the development of a product. So we have the QA engineer that it takes care of the whole life cycle. We have the software engineering test that is more focused in the development. And we have the test engineer that it's more focused in the validation part. So as I said before, I am the only QA engineer in the team. Basically, I am the only one that has a quality as a specialty. But it doesn't mean that we don't have people that is doing that roles. We have some developers, some front-end and back-end developers that they take care of quality because they like it, they think that they're important. So they are pushing in order to have unit tests, in order to have a good test infrastructure. And we have a product owner that each time that a user story is finished, she checks that everything is working fine. So we have the test engineer at the software engineering test. So after this explanation, do you think that DevOps and QAs have things in common? Can you raise your hand if you think that we have it? Or? Okay, cool. So these are the points that I think that we have in common, and I'm going to explain it with a little bit more of detail. From my point of view, DevOps and QA should be a team culture. We are lazy people. We share objectives, and we have tools in common. The first thing should be a team culture. From my point of view, I think that DevOps and QA shouldn't be specific roles. Should be a thing that the team is doing. Why? I mean, I think that DevOps and QA movement, we are trying to break the silos. From the QA perspective, usually testing it's a thing that it's done at the end of the development. And it shouldn't be like that. Testing and quality should be part of the development, of the whole life cycle of the development. In that way, we want to increase the collaboration between different roles. I mean, I want to work close to the developers in the same way that sysadmin people wants to work close to the developers as well, in order to try to understand the necessities of the team. In both cases, we are moving into a developer role with a specialty. I mean, I'm writing an automated test, I produce code, so I'm a developer as well, but my specialty is quality. And of course, we share responsibility. I mean, we have the same objectives. We want to put code into production. We want that everything is working fine. So we are working together. And a really important thing is that without the right culture, DevOps and QA are only cool words. Because if you have the QA department and the DevOps department, but they are not working together, they are working separately, they are not talking, it's kind of, okay, you have the QA department that is doing the testing at the end of the development. We have waterfall, we don't have agile. And you have the DevOps guys in the other room doing their things without knowing what is the infrastructure the team needs. So we need to work together. So how does this work for us in Olaluz? Because I am the only QA, and we don't have the DevOps or sysadmin team. So it works like that. We have like different areas of specialties, QA, backend, frontend, infrastructure, and we have different roles. But we see that everyone is a developer, but it has a different specialty. And it doesn't mean that if I'm a QA, I'm not able to produce code and it's going to go to production. Sometimes I do that. I feel more comfortable with the front-end team, so if they're in a rush, I help them to build code or to fix bugs. And in the other way around, if I'm in a rush and I need to test a lot, they help me. Another thing that we have in common is that we're lazy people. Or, as I prefer to say, we're smart people. I hate manual tasks. Come on, everybody hates manual tasks. This is why, for DevOps and QA, automation is a cornerstone. It helps us to have up-to-date documentation. We can focus on other valuable activities or more fun activities. We save a lot of time, and we reduce the chance of human error because everything is automated. And as I said before, we also share objectives. As a QA, I don't want to push bugs to production. Because if something, I know that if a bug reaches production, it's a team responsibility. But I will feel a little bit guilty. And of course, for a sysadmin guy, if it's on call and there is a bug in production, it's not a good thing. We want quick feedback. For me, it's important to know if a bug has reached production, if the product is going to have the quality that we need. And for the sysadmin guys, the same. They want to have quick feedback in order to build infrastructure the team needs. And again, we want to work close to developers. We want to be part of the development cycle. And we have tooling in common. Like, for example, Docker. In my case, I write lots of functional tests using Cucumber and Ruby. But developers are working with JavaScript or with PHP, different development languages. So what happens? That I want that everyone is able to execute my test. But I understand that it could be a pain in the ass if they need to prepare all the Ruby, install everything, install Cucumber to execute it. So this is why I use Docker, because in that way, they can execute things easily without having to install anything. Also, when I'm executing tests, it's really important that between executions and between scenarios, I have a clean state. I know that the data I'm going to use is the one that I need. For that, Docker is also a good solution. It's easy to parallelize executions, and it makes everything easier to maintain. And we use continuous integration tools as Jenkins or Travis. For us, continuous integration is really important from the QA perspective, quality perspective, in order to know that all the things that we are building is working fine together. And also continuous delivery, because we want to push smaller pieces of code into production. Because if you push a big chunk of code, for sure that something is going to happen. For sure that it's going to be a bug there. And also, if the chunk of code is smaller and you have a bug, it's easier for you to find it and to understand what is happening there. And to execute some automated regression testing. And this is how it looks for us in Hola Luz. All this tooling together. So basically, it's time that someone opens a pull request. We executed automated test. We use a Docker Compose file, and we have different containers. One for the tool for Cucumber, another one for the application we want to test, and another one with the browser. We use 3 different browsers right now, because are the ones that the users are using a lot, Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. And in order to use Edge, we are using a third party called Browser Stack, because right now you cannot build a container with Windows. And as a takeaway of my session, I would like that you keep in mind that QA and DevOps should be part of the team culture, that shouldn't be specific roles, that we are trying to break the silos, and this is really important, that we can learn a lot from each other, and that we share objectives. That means that we are a team. So thank you. So if you have questions,